Greetings everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to rank Europe's classic era, and usually I rank old albums in a band's discography, but the reunion era of the band never really interested me that much. It had more of a rock vibe to it than the melodic hard rock sound that they had back in the 80s. And maybe you think that Europe is too soft for a metal channel like mine, but I think that all Swedish hard rock and metal fans grew up with Europe, especially if you're my age or a bit older. So in today's Rank 'Em All video, we're going to rank the classic era of Europe, which is from their debut album back in 1983 up until 1992 when they broke up. They did however made a full comeback in 2003 and they've kept releasing albums ever since. And now it's time for us to rank Europe's albums from their worst to their best, so let's roll the intro. In fifth place we have The Final Countdown, which was a huge album, and it put Europe on the map, literally, since it made them famous all over the world. Anyone who had a slight interest in music are of course familiar with the title track with that famous keyboard melody. The Final Countdown also marked a change from a more heavy metal influenced sound to a more commercial pop metal sound. But despite that, the album ain't just all fluff and keyboards. Norum is still in the band, and he is one of Sweden's most talented guitarists of all time. His melodic guitar play is always enjoyable, but there are moments when the album just gets too cheesy for me, like in the song Carry. I can't really enjoy The Final Countdown either, since it's been played to death. Of the singles from this record, I prefer Rock the Night and Cherokee the most. Ninja is one of the better deep cuts on this record, but I kinda struggle to listen to this album, since I'm not that much into 80s hair metal. But I do get a bit nostalgic from listening to this record, since it was one of the first hard rock bands that I heard back when I was a kid. The production sounds good though, even if the album is, as I said, drenched in keyboards and fluff. Next. In fourth place we have Out of This World, and this was the band's first album with their new guitarist Keith Marcello, because Norum shockingly decided to leave the band after their success with The Final Countdown. He left due to issues with the band's manager, but he also didn't like that keyboards were taking over the band's sound, so he left to start his own solo career, and later he joined Dokken. Fortunately for the band, Keith Marcello was an excellent guitarist. He joined from a band called Easy Action that were also quite big back in the day. And don't get me wrong here, there's a lot of cheese on this album too, like Superstitious or Open Your Heart, but I do prefer this one over The Final Countdown, perhaps mainly because it's not as overplayed as a lot of the songs on that one. If you haven't heard the album Out of This World, then I'd suggest that you start with the track Ready or Not, which is an up-tempo rocker. Next. In third place we have Prisoners in Paradise, which is Europe's fifth studio record, and their last before they broke up for 10 years or so. This album marks a slight change from their previous multi-million selling records. First, the album didn't chart in the US, which was kind of odd, since their previous two did so well over there. But the times were certainly changing for Europe and the music business as a whole, because the hair bands were on their way out to be replaced by grunge rock. Prisoners in Paradise has less keyboards on it in comparison to their last two albums, and the whole album has more of a rocking vibe to it, I would say. The title track was the big hit song from the record, and it's probably my favorite track on the whole album. Keith Marcello's guitar melodies are particularly great in that one, and Girl from Lebanon is also a highlight from this record. If you like the more rock-oriented sound of their modern-day records, then Prisoners in Paradise might just be the album for you, because I think it was a slight improvement on their two previous records, But this is an album that I rarely listen to these days, since I think it still has too much of an 80s commercial hard rock sound for me to fully get into it. But if you can handle some rock, then it might just be for you. So, next. In second place we have Europe's self-titled debut record that came out in '83. They got the opportunity to record this album after they won the Swedish Rock Championships, where they competed against hundreds of bands for a recording contract. At this point it was still unclear what direction the band was going to take. Later albums had, for example, a much more commercial sound, think Whitesnake or something like that, while here in 1983 they could perhaps even be labeled as a metal band. I think that there are some strong Rainbow influences here with some sprinkles of Deep Purple and Thin Lizzy. Europe were a success right out of the gate, at least here in Sweden. Songs like In the Future to Come and Seven Doors Hotel were up-tempo hard rock songs with an overall high level of musicianship. Especially the guitar work by Norum was fantastic, and Tempest had a great clean voice. So I think that they had the ingredients to become quite big without going as soft as they did later on in their career. And let's not forget about the instrumental track Boyasont. It's a melancholic song with some flashy guitar work. Europe's 1983 debut album is great, and whenever I'm in the mood for some Europe, I almost always go for this one or the next one on our list. So let's check out the number one Europe record, which in my opinion is Wings of Tomorrow from 1984. It was a close call for me. This record has a slightly more commercial sound, but it also has a better production. They sound more like a professional band here in comparison with their debut. Stormwind is a cool song. Scream of Anger might just be the hardest song that they ever wrote. Open Your Heart was a ballad, and the success with that song probably inspired them to continue writing softer material after that. Aphasia is a great and melodic instrumental track. Definitely worth a listen if you're unfamiliar with it. The title track is pretty strong. Wasted Time and Lying Eyes are cool deep cuts. Wings of Tomorrow is a great record, and it's not drenched in keyboards like some of their later work, so don't be scared to check it out. And I get it, some of you just heard the final countdown and thought that everything that Europe did sounded just like Journey or Foreigner, but that's not completely true. The first two Europe albums have a slightly harder edge. Fans of classic metal bands like early 80s Priest or Maiden can certainly get into Europe's first two records. And here I have my full rank of the classic year of the band. I decided just to rank the first 5 Europe records, because that's what I'm mostly familiar with. I have of course listened to all the Europe albums, at least briefly, but they have a more stripped down rock sound, and I don't have any nostalgic feelings towards those. Plus this channel is all about metal, so instead of me putting them all towards the bottom of my list, I decided to skip them completely, simply because they never really spoke to me. In fairness, I can say the same about some of the keyboard-drenched pop songs on the final countdown and Out of This World too, but I have more nostalgic feelings towards those records, since I heard a lot of Europe's music back when I was a kid. But Europe is not just nostalgia either. Europe were in parts a great band, with some incredible musicians. But I am curious to hear your opinions on Europe. Do you like them? Are they too soft for you? And what do you guys think of the reunion era of the band? Share your thoughts down below, and feel free to hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And if you want to support my work, then there's the option to become a Patreon. It's from $3 per month, and it really helps the channel out, so thanks for considering becoming a Patreon, like the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Spotify and Instagram, so check all the links listed down below. And let me know whose discography I should take on in the next episode of Rank 'Em All. And that's all for now, so thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Cheers.